All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a 49er video. All right, check out Pig and a Pickle. Two locations there in Corte Madera, and they are in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in Marin County from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. And of course, in Emeryville, they're open Wednesday through Sunday. They're inside the Emeryville Public Marketplace. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Get the brisket. Get the brisket chili. The brisket chili is second to none. All right. In this video, we're talking a little bit about the 49ers and looking ahead to the fantasy football season. And I went through my fantasy football rankings the other day, just seeing exactly where everybody's ranked and kind of looking ahead to, what I might want to do in the fantasy draft this year. And the Niners historically have been a tough team to kind of gauge fantasy wise. Why? Because they haven't had a top tier quarterback. They don't always score a lot of points. Sometimes they rely on their run game and defense. They use a lot of different running backs over the course of the year. Week to week, it's hard to say exactly which running back is going to be the star of Kyle's offense. One week it could be this guy, the next week it could be that guy. It's Jeff Wilson, it's Raheem Mostert, it's Elijah Mitchell, then it's Christian McCaffrey, and then and they've got a handful of backs, a bunch of weapons, and a lot of options. And it just makes the fantasy projections very, very difficult. But let's go through it because I think it's kind of interesting this year. And we'll start with the running backs. Christian McCaffrey is listed as running back one. And the running backs usually go very high, top of the draft. And all I would say is McCaffrey looks awesome in the off season, the OTAs, the mini camp. He's looked really, really good. I mean, the best player on the field, good. And he looks like he's primed for a bust out year. So there's a chance that he has just an absolutely huge year. But there's also injury concerns. And man, the fastest way to lose in fantasy football is to have your first pick in the draft wind up injured and out for an extended period of time. And then the 49ers also have great depth at the running back spot. So if Christian gets nicked, even if he just all of a sudden he's nicked up and he's got a little nagging this or a little nagging that, easily Kyle Shanahan could say, we'll lean on our other running backs and sit him and be extra conservative about playing him, especially against some lesser opponents early in the year. So I don't know that I would take Christian McCaffrey first overall in this draft. At the same time, if you have a lower number one pick and, let's say you're 5, 6, 7 or on down and McCaffrey's still on the board, he might be a really difficult guy to pass on just simply because he has looked incredible. And it looks like he's primed for maybe the biggest year of his career. So McCaffrey, I find hard to gauge, but I would just say this. I wouldn't take him first overall in the draft. And I don't think I would take him in the first 3 or 4 picks. But if I had a lower first round pick and he's still there, I think I would lean towards Christian McCaffrey. Now, there's a couple other running backs that I really like a lot with the 49ers as late round stash picks. And that's Elijah Mitchell because of the injury possibility for McCaffrey. But Mitchell also gets hurt a lot. If I was going to stash a running back late this year, one of the guys that's at the very top of my list is Jordan Mason, JP Mason. He's listed here. Elijah Mitchell's listed as running back 40. JP Mason's listed as running back 82. Ty Davis Price is running back 83. Jordan Mason last year was 240. He was a rookie coming off a really nice career at Georgia Tech. This year, he looks lighter, faster, more explosive. And I've already said it a few times, and I really believe it. I think this guy could be right there with, the best weapons that the Niners have. He could be a bell cow back for them, especially if McCaffrey gets hurt early and Mitchell is still a little dinged up. The Niners may go to JP Mason, and at 230, he's more than just a power back to finish off games. This guy's got explosive run away from the defense capability. So I guess I would advise you to stash Mitchell late, but really look for JP Mason late as well. And you get into that 8th, 9th, 10th round, 11th round, and you're looking for a back that you want to just put on your bench and wait until later in the year, I'm all over JP Mason because I think Mason could be fantastic. I mean, he could be really, really good. All right, let's move to the quarterbacks. Brock Purdy's listed as quarterback 28, and Trey Lance is listed at quarterback 33. Um, I'm not a big proponent of drafting a quarterback early. I mean, obviously you can get Mahomes, but a lot of these quarterbacks you can get good quarterbacks down the list. The 49ers averaged 33 points a game with Brock Purdy, and that was as a rookie. And I think there's going to be improvement there. If Brock shows he's healthy and he's the quarterback, this offense is going to produce points with him at the quarterback spot. And QB 28 is way too low, way too low. So I'm saying you get to round 8, 9, 10, Brock Purdy's still on the board. You don't have a quarterback. You know, if the Niners score 33 points a game next year or this upcoming year, like they did last year with Brock Purdy, guess where that would rank in the NFL as far as points per game? Number one by a wide margin over Kansas City. Kansas City was number one in the NFL last year. They averaged 29.2 points per game. The Niners under Purdy averaged 33 a game. So QB 28 is too low for Brock Purdy if he's healthy. I would definitely look for him if you don't have a quarterback. He might be worth a flyer. Now, the Niners run it a lot. And the other guy that obviously I would have a lot of interest in is Trey Lance, because Trey Lance gives you rushing yards. I don't think the Niners are going to score as many points if they have Trey Lance, just because there'll be a little bit more inconsistency passing wise. But I still think, QB 33, that's kind of low for Trey Lance. You may want to throw a pick on Trey Lance, because if he gets it cooking early, if by chance Purdy is not ready to go and Lance has a strong preseason and Lance hits the ground running, he could put up some big numbers rushing and throwing. And I think he's worth a late round flyer. I'd rather have Purdy, but if you could get to round 10 and you're looking for a quarterback to stash on your bench, you could do a whole lot worse than Trey Lance. All right, let's move to tight end. George Kittle is tight end 4. Cameron Latou is tight end 84. Ross Dwelly, tight end 86. Charlie Warner and Braden Willis aren't even rated. The two guys I have interest in here are Kittle and Willis. One, because Brock Purdy, going back to Iowa State, notoriously hooks up with the tight end a lot. He made Charlie Kohler look really good at Iowa State, and Kittle's greatest stretch of his career was with Brock Purdy at the helm. When they get in the red zone, Purdy's looking for Kittle. And I think that's first and foremost. So Kittle could be, the Kittle that you saw at the end of the year with Brock Purdy may be the George Kittle that you see all year if Purdy's in there. And even if Purdy's not in there, if it's Trey Lance time or even Sam Darnold time, I think they're going to feature the tight end. I think that's the easiest throw to make. Kittle's got great ball skills. I think Kittle, no matter who's at quarterback, could be primed for a breakout year. So I really like George Kittle as tight end 4 for sure. And I think he's a guy that I would definitely want to draft. The other tight end I really like is Braden Willis. Braden Willis, in my opinion, and I'll make the prediction right now, I think he's going to wind up being the 49ers tight end 2. I think when you see double tight end sets, you're going to see Willis. He's a tenacious blocker, but he's an underrated receiver, and he doesn't tiptoe over the middle of the field. He runs with conviction. He also can catch the ball in the flat. He's got a little bit more speed than you think. He's got good receiving skills. And once again, Brock Purdy loves to throw to the tight end. If Kittle is nicked up, who's going to get the run? I think Dwelly may not make the team. I think it's going to be Kittle and Latou and Willis at tight end, maybe Charlie Warner as well. But I think Willis is more polished and more ready to contribute right away as a receiver than either Warner or Latou. And I wouldn't draft Braden Willis, especially not on the first day unless there was an injury to Kittle. But if you get late in the draft and you're looking for just a tight end to stash on your bench, or if you're making a list after the draft of guys that you want to kind of keep your eye on the evolution this year of Braden Willis and how he does, because I really believe he'll be the Niners' second tight end, and I think you'll see a lot of 2 tight end sets. All right, let's go to the defense. Niners have the defense number 1 in the league. And I don't think I would go with them defense number one. Now, it's a new coordinator. You bring in Javon Hargrave, you strengthen the back end. They may not have as much edge rush depth, or they don't have as much edge rush depth as they did a year ago. I don't think I would take them number one overall. I think that's an overdraft of their defense. You still like their defense, and they're not going to allow a lot of points. But defense number one, I'd be a little cautious. New coordinator, changing, not a lot of depth up front. A young secondary. There's reason for pause there as far as defense number one. Still love them, but I don't know about if I would take them first overall. All right, let's jump to the receiving core. Deebo Samuel is wide receiver 16. Brandon Ayuk is wide receiver 26. Jawan Jennings is wide receiver 123. And they have Danny Gray here at wide receiver 159. I do like Danny Gray to have a bust out year, but he's not even a lock to make the roster when you look at the depth that the Niners have. Jennings also, I don't believe, is a lock to make the roster with Ronnie Bell there, Tay Martin there. They're going to be cheaper. Jennings a free agent at the end of the year. I don't think it's a lock that Jennings is got a roster spot locked up. Now let's move to the top two guys, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. I don't think you can go wrong with either of these two guys. I like Ayuk a little bit more than Deebo. I might flip flop them. I might have Ayuk as a wide receiver 16 and Deebo at wide receiver 20 to 25 in that range. Simply because Deebo and Ayuk are both hell bent on having big years. Ayuk's looking to get paid. Deebo said he was awful last year. He's holding himself to higher standards. I think there's a chance that both these guys have breakout years. I like Ayuk, though, to have the bigger year. And I think Ayuk already last year caught more balls for more yards, more touchdowns. Ayuk's body, I think, is going to age well over time. And I think he's primed for a career year. So I like Brandon Ayuk a lot. And I think he would be a receiver I'd be looking for in this fantasy draft for sure. I also like Deebo, though. Debo's kind of a bigger name. That's why he's wide receiver 16. I think that's about the range he's probably going to go. He does seem intent on having a breakout year, but there's an awful lot of weapons here, as we just kind of outlined. And so I would keep him in that 16 to 25 range, or I should say 20 to 25 range, and go with Ayuk, 10 to 16 as far as wide receivers. But I like both those guys. And I think they're both obviously draftable, and Ayuk might make your fantasy team. And I'm going to give you one last one here that we haven't discussed, and that is Jake Moody. And he's listed as a kicker 21. This guy's got one of the greatest legs I've ever seen. I mean, absolutely a booming leg. So much so that you may see Shanahan attempt some field goals. Shanahan is notoriously conservative, it seems like, as far as going for it on fourth down. And what are the odds that in one offseason that's going to change? Probably not. But they will attempt more longer field goals because of the booming leg of Jake Moody, especially early in the year, to see if he can connect. And Jake Moody may be, once again, the Niners under Brock Purdy scored 33 points a game. If he plays the full year in his second year, there should be dramatic improvement from year one to year two. The Niners may score 30-plus points a game. Who knows? They might score 35 a game with Brock Purdy. Kansas City led the NFL this year with 29 points per game. So if you're drafting Jake Moody, you're getting a kicker with a booming leg, a leg as strong as any kicker in the game today. And you're potentially getting the kicker on the number one scoring offense in all of football. So Jake Moody as PK 21, way too low, way too low. Now, there's always a chance he's going to fall on his face. There's always a chance that he gets the yips or whatever and loses the job to Zane Gonzalez. And the Niners are a contending team, and they may not have patience for a rookie kicker. But, man, they drafted this kid in the third round. A lot of people really believe in him. Jim Harbaugh thought he was one of the great kickers in Michigan history. His nickname is Money. This guy may make your fantasy team by, selecting him ahead. He's not going to be popular, but you may wind up with the kicker that has the biggest leg and a bright future on the number one scoring offense in all of pro football. So Jake Moody, sleeper. I would say JP Mason, sleeper. Brock Purdy, if you list him at quarterback 28, could be a sleeper. I think Kittle is likely to have a big year. Braden Willis could be a sleeper. So, and then I would just say be careful with Christian McCaffrey at the very top of the draft. You kind of, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice on injuries. But the Niners are an intriguing fantasy play on a number of fronts. And I guess the biggest steal, I would say, is Jake Moody. He's likely to get the job. And once again, you might wind up with the strongest leg kicker on the number one scoring offense in the entire NFL. All right, hope you enjoyed our video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out in Corte Madera or in Emeryville. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.